Spectrum wants to hear your views. You can SMS at any time during the show. Type Spectrum, leave a space, type in your contribution and name, then send it to 7197. Your views, our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM 90.
A very warm welcome. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. I'm your host, Edmond, Kizito. On Spectrum, tonight we are reviewing the week. Some of the issues we will be looking at. The Public Accounts Committee report against Mutevile recommended that he be fired, relieved of his duties. He's still fighting on. Cabinet has met over the issue. The NRM caucus has met over it. Decisions have been deferred until next week, Tuesday. Mutevile himself said yesterday at a press conference in the Central Bank of Uganda that he's not going to resign because he thinks he's still the best man there and he's broken no law. We'll talk about the State House budget, 92 billion shillings already spent by State House in part, being passed by Parliament, 7 billion shillings wanted for nodding disease, well, still in abeyance. We'll also talk about the general standoff between the Executive and Parliament. Our guests tonight, Mr. Nicholas Opiyo, a legal consultant at AKIJUL, also a well-known commentator on social and political affairs. You're most welcome, Nicholas.
Thank you very much, although I doubt if I'm well-known.
Oh, you would like to be known a little bit more. No problem. We're also joined by Imam Kasozi. He's a senior lecturer at IUIU, also a Muslim cleric. He's going to contest the senior part. Go on.
I am not a senior lecturer. That is Edmond's one. Good evening, viewers and listeners.
We're also joined by Mr. Charles Rwomushana, former head of political intelligence at State House. You're most welcome, Mr. Rwomushana.
Good evening, viewers and listeners.
Viewers, because we're also on the internet, you can access a video of Spectrum of YouTube. We're also joined by Dr. Bainomugisha, head of the Peace and Conflict Desk at ACODE. That's a research and think tank group. You're most welcome, Dr. Bainomugisha.
Thank you, Edmond, and good evening, listeners and viewers.
He's the doctor without a hospital.
Okay. Dr. Bainomugisha, the Public Accounts Committee against Mutevile says the man should go, but there's a lot of movement that why is it that the ministers went quickly, but the governor does not want to go or would not go?
Edmond, I would have loved that I comment on that later, but what I think is important for us now is the whole point of justice, natural justice to people. That when allegations are made by Parliament, it doesn't mean that someone has been convicted. Of course, I think we need to have zero tolerance to corruption, but I think in the fight against corruption, we need to give people the due process of law so that they actually found guilty, but even punished, because I think we've now come to a conclusion that even people stepping aside when they are alleged to have stolen a lot of public funds and then they go to enjoy it is not good enough for this country, but go forth and actually recover that money, sell what they have used that money for, and return the money to the public coffers. In the case of Mutevile, certainly I think there is a need to conclude the investigations, and if he should be found guilty, then of course he should stand aside and be prosecuted. But until that has been done, I think it wouldn't be good. And I think there is a difference, of course, between the technocrat and the politicians, and this should be these two cases should be treated differently. I know people are saying that the two ministers have stepped aside. What about Mutevile? But I think these are two case scenarios, and we need to follow the due process. But of course, Opiyo would give us advice on this. He's the legal consultant.
What do you call it? Lead counsel for this panel tonight. Yes. As soon as the show ends, that's it. Nicholas, yesterday Mutevile lowered the central bank rate from 22 to 23. Most people thought he would keep it flat at best. Now the shilling is already sliding to the central bank intervened in the markets. Is it taking a political decision to stay on good terms with borrowers?
Well, of course, he can't take a political decision. He doesn't have political powers. I think all decisions that he takes are really economic.
Well, it sounds like a populist decision that he took, because the logic would have demanded that he stays the CBR at 22% at worst.
What I want to say is that we cannot speculate on the reasons for the reduction in lending rates. Your guess is as good as mine. But we believe that it is good for this economy. It should have actually reduce it further to stimulate growth, to allow more borrowing, okay, which is a good thing. But in reference to the standoff between the governor, central bank, and a committee of Parliament, I think I agree with the point that Dr. Arthur makes, that it is important for us to, you see, Makubia and Bumba took political responsibility.
That's good.
Mutibila has no political responsibility to take. In fact, if there's any responsibility to be taken politically, it has to be the appointing authority.
Or President Museveni.
Yeah, Mutibila is going to be investigated. If he's found to be guilty, he will be punished. Of course, if his conscience serves him right, he wouldn't want to be in these murky waters. I would have advised him for now to say, look guys, if I'm the one who is being seen as the bad guy, investigate, I'll step aside. But that's for him to decide. But for me, the unfortunate thing arising out of this debate are two things. The first is there seems to be a tribal connotation to this debate. I mean, you had an MP arguing that when our own were in problems, you convened a caucus. I mean, you didn't convene a caucus to save their neck. In fact, you dropped them to the wolves to eat them. Now, your own is in problems. Your own was in problem before in the form of the Prime Minister. You then convened a caucus, okay, to save his neck. Again, spinning, this MP said he would call a Muganda caucus meeting to discuss these things, spinning a tribal thing about it, which I think is very unfortunate. I think that's retrogressive. It's not good for our country. The second thing, of course, is the governor. You know, when somebody begins to invoke the name of God, we have seen this before with with Justice Faith in Wanda. Only God can sack me. For me, it's just putting a brave face to what is really hurting him. I think the governor is hurt. He's just putting a brave face to it. And what better way to do it than by recalling the name of the Lord and saying he's the only one who can actually save him. But also, thirdly, I think we've got to deconstruct this whole thing about the president, because anybody who is about to face a sack says only the president can sack me. The president is the alpha and omega. I think the point that has to be made is that institutional processes have got to be given time to operate, and not every decision is one to, has got to be solved by State House. I think that's unfortunate. I think the governor should know that the police is investigating him, the IGG is investigating him, but also that the court of public opinion seems to be against him. And he has got to acknowledge that, because, he's appointed by the president. He can be sacked by the president under the law. But the point is,
only by the president.
Yeah, only by the president. But the point is that the people. I had this argument being made this morning by the Honorable Norbert Mao that the very people who can actually impeach the president have spoken. So who is he to argue that only the president can actually sack him?
The challenge, because in there is then there must be an election.
Charles Commissioner, what's your view?
It is very,
When would Mutabila be guilty? Is he took a bribe, or just the sheer act of?
I was in the Constituent Assembly.
Yes.
When we debated and promulgated the Constitution, and we thought very deeply about protecting certain institutions, and one of the institutions that we protected very, very seriously was the judiciary, the judge, and the governor. The governor is not supposed to be under any influence whatsoever from anybody, because it seems, by the way, he keeps a lot of money. We have the energy fund, you have the NSSF fund, you have now the oil fund is in the offing. So it's supposed
consolidated fund.
Yeah, consolidated fund. So it's supposed to be shielded against any form of influence. Actually, it's even very unfortunate that the governor is even pushed to the point of saying that it's only the president who can. Because we even limited the power of the president in sacking the governor. There must be certain area that the president that must be proved against the governor, and the governor went through it. So it's very unfortunate that even the parliament attempted at the investigating him, even attempted at making a recommendation he be prosecuted and go out and try, because his government is a client. And if he keeps money for government and the government gives him instructions, his duty is to oblige, because he's the client. He keeps the consolidated fund. His is to know whether you have money and whether this money won't create inflationary problems. The other issue raised about the president being the alpha and omega, the Constituent Assembly looked at reducing the powers of the president, but we only limited it at approve, at appointments. The parliament has powers to approve, but it does not have powers at disciplining.
Right.
So their hands are tied, and they have been amending the constitution several times. I don't see why they have not listed this area. They inquired against the Inspector General of Police, but when he came this third round to approve him, they approved him. If Mtewe has to have the first time, you would be surprised how Parliament would line up to approve him. So you wonder what the nature of their integrity. So it's very, very dangerous for these young economies to destabilize. But if they had said that Mtewe stole money, and you are creating a case that on the consolidated plan he took like a quarter, because now he's stealing billions and trillions. Or like the NSF fund, he has taken, and I know there are very many candidates there, including those who are even hunting him, that if you gave them that institution, they would have more than 10 banks here standing, commercial banks, they would even own roads. So my prayer is that we shouldn't even push Mtewe to be vulnerable even to the president. It's extremely very dangerous. We shouldn't push Mtewe to be vulnerable to cabinet. That a subcommittee of parliament sits to decide the fate of cabinet, to decide the fate of the governor of central bank. It's extremely very dangerous for this country. We don't need to set that precedence.
Imam Kasozi, the governor should keep his job after all.
Thank you very much. I think they have put it right, but I think the question that remains in the people's minds, which I think we need to answer, is what is causing this? Because the issue is very clear. The rules of the game are very clear. But the problem that has fed this country, I think, two things, critically two things. Institution building has completely, is taking long to take root, and therefore we are suffering from it. These institutions themselves do not see themselves as independent. Even those that we are given all full powers and independence, they don't see this, because probably the people we are appointing to these positions are the ones that are causing this problem. So we need to overcome this. And number two, system building. We need systems, and these systems must really be clear for everybody to see that this is how things work, so that very few people, it is people of your class that make that difference between political responsibility and any other. And therefore, quickly, whenever there is any problem, people will quickly see them in their shades. Immediately, we are like this. I have been reading, I have read a dossier that it was written by the Uganda Supreme Council to the president over the positions and whatever. And I wondered, even when they were writing them, they did not make the right thing. So, to put the president probably into that fix of saying, probably they need help. But if you are not transparent in whatever you are doing, because of lack of systems, right, that is where you end up. So the whole idea is, where the law is clear, and as they put it, what they fed, probably what we are feeding today, is to be systematic and to accept that institutions have to grow and give them chance to carry out their business.
Following up on institutions, the State House budget, 92 billion shillings, was approved. Some people quarrel because they can't get 7 billion to cater for nodding disease. Is State House being extravagant?
You see, I have not been to State House. Fortunately, we have Rwomushana. Somehow, he was somehow related with it. He may help us to tell us what actually goes on there. But what is clear, and what I know, is that they are not extravagant because they want to be. It is they are only extravagant because they want to keep in power. And
because they want, what do you mean?
To keep in power. This goes back to the system. That's why we have very many people, these guys, they're employed in the so-called State House. And you find that all this money is not going for any development. It is recurrent expenditure.
No, but okay. Recently, the president launched this so-called Presto, the presidential initiative to support tourism. That money would go to such things.
No,
why do you complain? They're promoting tourism.
But there is a full ministry of tourism to handle that one. Okay, so you are taking me back at where I started. Do we have institutions? Are they growing? Have we given them a chance The whole idea is building cults around people, and it is going to cost this country centuries, not only this country, Africa as a whole. It is going to continue like this, and therefore we shall fail to strategize ourselves, and consequently, in the next millennium, our children, our grandchildren will remain the way we have remained. So that is what I want to think. So the State House, if we cannot find money for people who are sick, who need yes, I have been talking. There is a.
We don't even know what
I have just been having a discussion with a colleague of mine, a friend, and he told me he read in the press there is a girl who needs a kidney transplant, I think, and that she needs 150 million. Okay, she can't find it, and then this man said, if this was my child, I would surrender this child. Then I told him, those are rare cases that would be state cases, but in a state of like Uganda, nobody will attend to that, because after all, who are you? But if it touched one who matter, then you would see people looking for all this money. So I am saying, the State House, number one, let it reduce some of its this guy's employed staff, and those who are underemployed, called advisors. Okay. Who don't advise when we analyze things the way they are moving? There is no advice that is adequate that is coming. Therefore, I think there is a problem, and the problem is, I think, still on institutionalization.
All right, Doctor, some of this money is spent on actual services, actual work, photocopying 2 billion shillings in 4 months. So you can't say it's all for stuff.
I think, thank you, Edmond, for that, and Imam Kasozi. I think my take on the State House, of course, continues. This has become routine, of course. And then one wonders why it becomes a routine. Why don't they make a budget that actually will last them the whole financial year? But again, if you look at the economic times that we live in globally, you cannot afford to be extravagant. I think actually, I would recommend that there is a need for State House actually to employ a consultant.
On cost cutting.
Yes, on cost cutting, so that we can learn to live within our means. And let me tell you, when there is famine in the land, when there is famine in the house, I think the husband and the wife must sit and plan on food security, on how to live within your means. I think this kind of expenditure, when the economy is in shambles, and actually when we are dependent on donors whose economy is actually in shambles, we cannot continue as business as usual. So there is a need to cut down, and I would recommend a consultant. But secondly, as he said, I think, and you know, when you go around the country, you look at service delivery in terms of health services, in terms of education, in terms of the roads infrastructure. I think we could make some saving from the State House, and invest in those very critical social services in our sector. I also, I think, should add that State House seems to be actually incrementally taking on some of the roles that are supposed to be performed by specialized institutions and ministries, and you know, like the unit on health. All these are actually replicas.
The unit of health in State House.
In State House.
It should not be there.
Yeah, it shouldn't be there on AGOA, where actually that all those compete with ministries. They compete with.
There's one on tourism.
Now one on tourism, and yet there is a minister of tourism. I think this is a duplication, and then competition among staff, among the budget, within the budget. It actually even confuses the people, and I think it explains the minimal or dismal actually performance in most of these sectors. So I would want actually also the consultant to also look into rather build the capacity of the institutions that are designated and created by the Constitution, and empower them to work.
Institutions outside of State House.
Outside of State House.
So you don't want Presto in State House. You prefer the Minister of Tourism to get this money.
It shouldn't.
They've been spending $300,000 to budget.
You see, the president is the one who appoints the Minister for Trade and Tourism.
He should trust.
So he should trust the minister, and should work with that minister, and should work with the infrastructure in that ministry to actually promote tourism. But now to create a parallel staff, it creates unnecessary conflict.
Probably these are conduits to take public money in a way. And since they are going to the big office, we shall have fewer questions, because people are afraid. It takes you courage to question some of these things, actually. So when we make these discussions here, when you meet people on the street, sometimes they wonder, they think you are made of of stone. So the whole idea is people to go back at normal. Is it a deliberate move to create as many channels through which to siphon money from, there will be real ministries and then cripple them? Or is it a deliberate move to show that the other people are not working?
Well, this is Spectrum on Radio 1. We're going for a break. We'll be back tonight. We're reviewing the week. We'll be back. Do stay tuned to Radio 1.
Just like an uncut diamond is brought to life by unmatched skill and dedication, only our brewmaster holds the secret to crafting a crystal malt lager. Under the exacting international standards that now breweries, he uses only the finest, most carefully selected grains of roasted crystal malt and sets in motion the delicate process of releasing their full roast. The result is a world-class beer with a fresher aroma, a richer golden color, and a maltier taste.
Nile Gold Crystal Malt Lager, beyond an ordinary malt.
Not for sale to persons under 18.
Promotion kutoka MTN. Win 10 million shillings every day for 90 days. SMS win to 175.
Win, everybody. It is time to win lots of money. And all you have to do is Sukum SMS. Big up MTN for this promotion.
Chino Chifufu.
Win 10 million shillings every day for 90 days. Simply SMS WIN to 175 to play and win. MTN Sukuma SMS.
Terms and conditions apply.
MTN. Everywhere you go. Something new on the horizon.
Get your weekend started with the Kampala Sun. More gossip than your local bar. More photos than your phone can store.
The one-stop paper for news on celebrities, sports, and the corporate scene.
Get your copy every Friday for just 1,000 shillings.
The Kampala Sun.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90 is brought to you by Stanbic Bank.
Welcome back on Spectrum. Tonight we're reviewing the week of guests. Mr. Nicholas Opiyo, legal consultant at AKIJUL, Imam Kasozi, lecturer at the Islamic University in Uganda, also a Muslim cleric, and Mr. Charles Rwomushana, former head of political intelligence at State House, Dr. Bainomugisha from ACODE. He's the head of the Peace and Conflict Desk at ACODE, the research and think tank group. You can contribute by sending a text message to 7197. That is Spectrum. Message, question, or comment, send it to 7197 to be read on air. Mr. Charles Rwomushana, you used to work in State House not too long ago. Talk to us about this expenditure. Is it normal? Is it justified?
It's even small. It's even small. The cost of doing business in Uganda now is extremely very high.
You mean there's a lot of business to be done in State House?
I mean the cost of doing business. If you are talking in terms of price, it affects State House too. It affects any. I mean, why you have a supplementary budget is because the initial money was not enough. That's why you go for a supplementary budget. I don't want to go to Tamale Mirundi's line that it's because it's overworking that but I want to look at what are the components of State House. Of course, we don't have a lot of that time, but I would want to say this. On my Facebook, I've put a picture of very many human beings that were burned, charred dead bodies. You had the scenario of Kanungu because the intelligence didn't pick in time what Chiwetel was up to. So if you are talking about classified expenditure, you will see yourself with peace, this relative peace we have. But it takes
where it's coming from.
Yeah, it takes a lot of money to do intelligence and fend off enemies. It takes a lot of money to do diplomacy. You always reading the newspapers here. The president has been meeting delegation from the African Development Bank, from where mobilizing these investors. It takes a lot of money. Now, the president of Rwanda, the late Habyarimana, when he was when he was assassinated, you saw what happened. The mass murder, the mass murder, the genocide that followed.
1 million people killed.
Yeah. So you would wish to visualize the effects of having the security of the president compromised. Now you travel to Kalari, one route, and you see in a small car, 1 million shillings goes. Now you have to and imagine you are moving with a detailed security that he has and stuff. How much it would cost? Of course, the other alternative is to bring them where you are, which normally does when he's in Wachitora, for instance, because you are looking at arriving at a consensus decision making.
What do you mean bringing them where you are?
I mean, because if you think it is cheaper to bring people than to find them in their leaders, you're talking about local councils. You the other day you organized a meeting with local councils, and you by the way, you didn't even pick all. You picked some of them. But how much do you spend?
The point we are talking about is doing good business. Is it
exactly?
Good business, because you see the inflation that we have has not just come. We have thinkers, we have people, we are technocrats in State House. They must make projections. The habit we are trying to deal with is a continuous supplementary budget requests every year, and this has been.
Why would I finish this prayer? Maybe you misunderstood. I'm looking at the decision making because you must generate consensus over the whole country. And I was giving the example of the meeting organized for the local councils to generate consensus, to generate discussion, like the meeting we had today at Portea. You see how expensive it is. Now imagine you are going to mobilize the whole country into decision making, into consensus. You see these caucuses of NRM. Every other minute on any issue there is a caucus, and you need to transport. You need to. But don't again choose
as if I may, Charles.
So the question of decision making itself alone is a problem. Organize a wedding meeting and you see how much money you will spend just on wedding meetings alone. You see, the president has to meet delegations of more than 150, move with a huge unit to protect him. Very intelligence, the classified part. Right. Of course, it employs people. It pays utilities, water, even for some of them.
I appreciate two things. That's the business of running a state is an important business, and we appreciate the work the president has to do to generate consensus for him to be able to govern this country. But I think we've got to learn to do work in a more smarter way. I think the manner in which State House is consuming money over the years. Never in 1 year have we had a budgeted, framework that has been adhered to. It is an indication of a guy who is running State House in not a very smart manner. Okay? And I can tell you why.
You mean the State House comptroller is a problem?
Exactly. Exactly.
Project stress.
Go on.
Exactly. Because the point is, we have reduced the presidency and State House so that the entire country and everything about it is being run by State House. The president is spending taxpayers' money to attend weddings, to attend birthday parties, to attend useless parties.
No.
Useless parties. I can tell you. I mean, the man is going to attend a wedding at Christ the King for some village.
You mean the president should not attend weddings? Social side of life.
See, you've got to distinguish very clearly between state duties and personal duties. You can attend personal functions, but the point is, if you're managing state resources, you've got to be smart.
If he goes for the wedding, he leaves the security detail behind.
He's got to be smart. I can tell you that because we're not being smart, we've got our priorities upside down. We cannot pay teachers. We can't find money to pay teachers their salaries. We cannot find money to feed our children at school. We cannot find money to treat children who are dying in northern Uganda. It's a state not being run in a smart manner. I think we've got to begin to adopt a business attitude towards managing the state and begin to look at profit, loss, costs, output, because I think the presidency is consuming too much money. I see when they want to
cut, for instance,
when they want to scare people and get money, they point to issues of classified expenditures.
I'm failing to get the gist of what you get, where you see the extravagance in status. I'm failing to get that.
I told you that the president is attending birthday parties and weddings, meetings. Secondly, the president has taken over the management of everything in this country. Institutions just don't work. You've got to attend to the president If you want to have your problem solved, teachers have to go to him.
But the budget is not about a billion. The budget is 8 trillion. You're talking about you're talking about 900 billion out of 8 trillion. Look at the balancing world interests. Countries like Syria, countries like Iran that are not balancing world interests are having sanctions. You know how much pressure we have. What just the walk-to-walk business of Dr. Besigye can cause us. We can easily have sanctions imposed on us if you do not calculate it very well. And therefore you need a dynamic president. You move in Iran at the same time, you move in China, then you move to USA, you balance them. So certain situations emerge, and you know the jet must fly.
Dr. Rwomushana gave us the simplest example that anybody can use. He said, if it's the state of family in a household, the household sits and plans. You see, it agreed. You are saying you have to balance these things. Balance them over what? When you are balancing, it means you have a weighing scale and you are measuring which of the two. How do we go over it? So we are seeing that despite that, there are excesses, there are opportunities that president wants to do everything that can be done by even...
Can you take your children to Christian University?
Why not?
Why you go and lecture there? Why not? One thing must buy you land. I don't think we don't here.
I am saying why not? Which let us be serious. Don't protect a situation that is getting out of hand because of lack of sincerity. We are creating fear. We are creating fear. We live in fear. Three things, I have said it before, I want to target it. It is like that because African leaders fear the people they lead. They cheat the people they lead, they deceive the people. They lie, they tell us lies.
Let's move forward. Let's talk about the standoff between the executive and parliament. It seems there is a war brewing silently between the executive and parliament. The speaker of the parliament continually having to set up powers, saying whatever decisions we make are final, they have to be respected. The president saying they are not final, they are advisory. Where is this likely to go? And I would like us to talk about the Judicial Commission of Inquiry, which seems to be to polarize the two arms of government.
Thank you very much, Edmond. And let me put this clearly. I have been on record with others, of course, to try to defend the integrity of Parliament. To make sure that the Parliament is independent of the executive. But let me also add, while we want to defend the integrity of the Parliament also must work within its mandate. Because I think we could be biased. And in respect to the Commission of Inquiry into UPE and USE funds, I think really I'm of the view that the Parliament also overreacted. Because this is a Commission of Inquiry.
But the Commission has taken 2 years.
The Commission has taken 2 years, and I think the Parliament's concern is that this is too much time. You are going out of your time, and we've spent a lot of money. But you see, the Parliament did not give an opportunity to the Commission to provide its side of the story. For instance, frustration, as I hear, by the Ministry of Education, by the Ministry to release funds for them to do the work, and they have been depending on the President's intervention, and that has delayed them. And what has happened, of course, the Parliament rushed and slapped a ban. They resolved to hold the Commission of Inquiry and ask the Auditor General to intervene. And actually, I also hear that there are moves. Someone has actually lodged a petition within the Constitutional Court to prevent the publication of the report of this commission. What that means is that actually the people who are actually stealing money in UPE and USE are very strong. Very powerful. They are very powerful. Might take that actually they could also twist the hand of Parliament to make resolutions. What I would have done in the case of Parliament would have seen actually if the minister failed to defend the commission, then they should have sent this. They should have actually invited the commissioners to the Social Services Committee to provide their own story, and then the Services Committee provide a report to the Parliament, and then the Parliament pronounce itself on the basis of of information. So when sometimes we need to sympathize with the President. In that case, the commission was set up by the President to investigate the corruption within the education sector, and so And so when they actually close on that one and make the commission now the people on the firing squad, I think it is diversionary, and I think the president is right. We should ask the commission why they have taken long and get that story, and also make sure that
there's a reason why they've taken long. Why do you think it's taken such a long?
I mean, the information are going around says that actually the problem was that the commission is investigating the ministry and ministry officials, and the ministry control the funds for the commission has relied on.
So they're sabotaging them.
They're sabotaging that there is sabotage. And again, we also suspect, why has the commission or someone gone to put a petition in the constitutional court to prevent the publication of that report to the public? I think the Ugandan citizens need to know. And second, we don't need to be diverted in focusing into the commission's day, but into the rot in the education sector that is putting our children at risk. The information we have is that the completion rate of UP pupils is very low, but also the quality of these children, they cannot read. Some of them cannot write their names and write. And I think the president was right. The argument is put a lot of money in this sector, but the quality, the output is less. So I wouldn't want a situation that will stop us from knowing what is happening in order to invest. There's no country that has transformed in the world without a serious investment in the education industry.
Yeah, that is more or less negative in terms of.
You see, my take on this is this, and then before I even talk about the UPE probe, is that what appears to be an apparent pull and push between the executive and parliament, in my view, is actually functional separation of powers at work. It's good for our democracy. I think what is lacking is the court. The court is missing in this debate. The judiciary. I think that the judiciary must take its place and moderate this discussion and make sure that functional equality becomes functional separation of powers becomes effective separation of powers. Because that's exactly what we mean by checks and balances. That if the executive has erred, the legislature must be able to check on it and say, no, this is bad. And then if somebody disagrees, then the courts can adjudicate that conflict. I think that our judges must stand up to the challenge and begin to pronounce itself on some of these key decisions. I think that judicial activism might actually be required. And people who go to court, I think I applaud them. It's a civil way of doing things. That if you think that the oil committee was wrongly set, you go to court. But specifically on the UPE probe, I think we must not lose sight of the bigger picture, which is the rot in our education system. If there is one failure this government has had, it is the decline in our primary education system. We've had access, which is good, but access alone in itself not an end. We need to have quality education in our primary schools, and the investment is not actually tallying with output. Kids can't read and write. Kids go through class 1, class 2, class 3, automatic promotions, you don't fail. It makes teaching meaningless. Teachers cannot have meaningful and better salaries. Kids can't eat at school. These are extremely serious matter. But on the side, we also must deal with the whole concept of commissions of inquiry. And the practice has been that if you want to subvert discussion, you then put commissions of inquiry, whose reports are either disregarded, not made public, or actually shelved. I think that we need to address that as well going forward, but not lose sight of the bigger picture, which is addressing the cause of poor quality education in our country.
Charles.
Not until money of Gavi Global Fund.
Yes.
Why you go on? I know. That's it. Not until these scandals came out that people realized the Minister of Health had a lot of money. Actually, there is money in the Minister of Health, to the extent that the other day, Minister Nduhura had this to say, that there is money to fight malaria that they will not spend. Therefore, we can use this for nodding disease. You had that statement. Now, in the Ministry of Education, there is money. Actually, there is money that talks. For people like who are doing business, there are these printing books, cycles. The last time I tracked them, they were on cycle 10, over $10 million, and that's why you see many of these publishing companies here making a clear. So Now, in UPA alone, it absorbs a lot of money. And you've seen the destruction of public school system to the advantage of the private school system. I commanded an operation where we weeded out 300,000 ghost pupils. So if you're talking about completion rate, actually those who are enrolled are not there. you would be on paper would be saying you have 9 million people, but if you are talking about because like in Yumbe alone, West Nile, they had 60 that time. The time when we did the operation, 60% of the peoples in the district were ghosts. Right. So assuming it was the average of the country, even if it is 40% of 9 million, you actually do not have many pupils in school. So you are talking about completion rate that is not there. Now we got one school called Aromo Senior Secondary School in Kitgum.
Where is that? Kitgum.
In Kitgum. And it was a ghost school. The secondary school, a ghost school owned by a minister, owned by DC.
On top of a tree.
Yes, because the fellows went there and checked around the phone, the sign post leading to, but it was not there. Now, if you are talking about probing this kind of system, you must meet resistance.
And that was the school is supposed to be owned by government minister.
Yeah. And they are getting
the cassava garden or something like that.
This is something I know for a fact. Of course, I don't recall quite well.
So I can identify the minister.
I mean, this is public. I have raised it several times. Yes. Now, so if we are talking about investigating this kind of, and when we check like in Yombe, you would find the DOs are involved, you would find a district chairman, and the way spreads the country over, because this money goes through a system, it goes up to school and then comes back up. Now, if you are going to hit through this road, certainly you will have to affect Parliament. Parliament is they are beneficiaries. There is no doubt about that. Actually, if you are going to do a forensic audit, you need to target them. How the extent to which they are beneficiaries. Let them declare how many of them have private schools.
The members of Parliament.
Yeah, how many of them have private schools that benefit from this. These books that are printed that are supposed to be given to primary schools for free end up in private schools, and yet the private schools charge parents for these books. So it's a big problem. Actually, this commission is lucky. They have not been beaten.
What would happen?
Actually, we need even to give them security because the area they are probing is a very sensitive.
It's headed by a judge of the High Court.
It does not matter. Didn't receive threats. Even we are fighting. These ones have. It's because I think the case hasn't picked them, or it is picking them on the wrong note. But we need to pray to pray for them. Actually, I'm now going to devote a rosary. I'm going to devote a rosary for them. For the commissioners. This report, the report of the Uganda Revenue Authority, remember it was fought. When you make a report that is going to hit people, because it has been the procedure the printer has adopted. Every time it's going to hit at big people, you have a PAC report from the Auditor General's report, you have a Commission of Inquiry. So people have already read through. Remember, there is a minister who received the probe about these documents that were later on said to be fake. Before the report, you read that even the office have investigated. People who are involved into this kind of thing have that capacity to that's why we now need to devote
what Charles is describing is what I think was it said by Kenya. We did not give it a critical take that we are held at ransom by mafia, because what he is describing is exactly that there is a total system road. We have a Bureau of Statistics, we have a Population Secretariat, and then we don't know the number of school-going age to prove, because it would be very easy.
To check again.
Yes, it would be very easy. It shows, therefore, that it is those who own, because I have been told, for example, there is a minister here in this country who has three ATM machines at his home.
One in the bedroom
and three different banks. And the owner said, the money is finished, you come. So if you are in such a system, we are in danger. So actually, this debate, I want to thank this debate tonight, that has highlighted issues that need to address the total road. This really pushes me to where it does it. Where is our civil society? Now the civil society must now come out.
These villages are not even in his home village. It's not even at his center.
At his home. That when he finishes the man, because I'm told this minister that if you have lunch for him, if you take him for lunch, he will give you $1 million. And people they don't speak it freely. That's why Rwomushana told you that they were still in trillions. So the whole idea is we must now address the whole system of the state and the different institutions in the state and the departments that are supposed to be helping the others, because Bureau of Statistics, Population Secretariat should be giving us the right. Therefore, I am not beginning with doubt. Are we 33 million people?
You think we're less or more?
You see, are we 33 million people?
Well, that answer was provided by the former ED of the Bureau of Statistics. In a court petition, he saw an affidavit saying that the number of people in this country is a mere estimate.
Well, one of census coming on soon. Let's move to something else. Nicholas, in West Africa, Abdoulaye Wade, president of Senegal, he was in the opposition for a long time, around about 20 years. He's been in power 10 years. He wants another term. He's 85 years old. Well, he's 85 years old. He went in an election. He could lose. An incumbent could lose because they have to have a rerun. And, it's not clear if he's going to get it. He got only 34.8%. He needs an alliance, and he doesn't seem to be getting an alliance. An African leader is going to lose power soon.
Well, Edmond,
sitting African leader.
Edmond, people who have been in power for so long, when they begin to admit that they have failed to garner a majority, speaks of a very important fact. And this is an emerging global force, the people.
Yes.
When this guy went to vote, he was being booed by people at his own polling station.
Saying we've had enough.
He speaks to you of the power of the people, that people who have had a grip on power for so long, an endangered species, that they have to leave power and allow for the next generation to take over power. It has happened in many African countries. You've seen what happened in Tunisia, in Libya, in Egypt. It's now happening, with Abdoulaye Wade.
Yemen, they've also had the
So there's an emerging people power that even the brutal force of the state, even the power that the presidency holds, can be and do not suppress it. And the sooner we read this tide, the better for us as the African continent and also as a country.
Charles Rwomushana, 88-year-old drawback, says he's still fit as a fiddle. He can.
Yes, first and foremost, he was the leader of the opposition
for a long time, about 20 years.
Yeah. Now, this means don't trust some of these leaders of opposition.
Go on.
The messages of this war.
We're talking about the head of state now. Go on.
Make a statement. Don't say leaders of opposition. Don't trust the politicians of that kind.
They are factions, Chibuli and where. Now, so you don't need to trust the messages of this world because Abdoulaye Wade was in the opposition, and you see when he comes in what is going to do. Two, you don't need to walk to work to throw out the president. You don't need to create chaos. These people, they have dissented when he attempted at it because he had not delivered. Of course, he's becoming unpopular. The difference here is that they have not even had that kind of scenario. Imagine, beats them hands down. I don't think he has even gone below 60% considerably. He's been around there. Now he's even going up.
And who told you?
Yeah, he's going up. Actually, you are not very careful the way they are, because you are not focusing on issues.
Okay.
In West Africa, those people focus on issues. Actually, the information I have there that the situation in Senegal was improving.
You are lucky because people are just ignorant.
Give them a monument to inspire them.
Yes.
People are just ignorant.
Thank you very much. My take, because of our time, my take on this is this. One, I think people should be judged based on their individual actions and not say that you don't trust the opposition leaders. I think that is very, 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 very bad. Doesn't mean that people operate the same way. But secondly, never trust people with power without restrictions. The power that we give them must be a check that is crossed, so that you need other people to open that check. What has happened here? So you need strong institutions.
He was allowed by the Constitutional Court.
You need strong institutions. You need strong systems to stop the greed. Any person, it means that every person is greedy, he can do anything. But for what day? Really, this is shameful, because this is a man who suffered in the opposition, and the moment he comes in, he has served two terms, and actually has subverted the constitutional order now by not even going through the referendum and the parliament, but using the constitutional court, the technical thing, and perhaps of judges that he appointed the other day. And so the good thing is this: he's being punished, but he has only achieved one thing, that he has not reached the election, I think, and
Special fares to the US, London, China, and India, with extra baggage allowance on selected flights. To book your flight, contact your local travel agent or call us on 041-7800-900 or book online at QatarAirways.com/UG. Qatar Airways, world's 5-star airline. Terms and conditions apply.
He was lamenting. I read it and I got so whatever we said.
It used to be that when we paid our bills, we had both feet on that ground for ages in a long line of strangers. But now we pay bills instantly with our feet relaxed in front of the TV while we watch football with friends. You don't have to queue anymore. Pay your utility bills with Airtel Money, a simple, secure and instant money transfer that leaves you with all the time to do the things you love. Pay your bills, send and receive money, top up, access your bank account and withdraw Airtel Money across all InterSwitch ATMs countrywide. So, visit any Airtel shop today and register your SIM card. Airtel Money helps your money do more.
I wanna be alive and free.
I wanna be alive and free. I wanna be alive and free. I wanna be alive and free. I wanna be alive and free. You and me.
Uganda Waraji, the spirit that binds us. Strictly not for sale to persons under 18 years. Please drink responsibly.